Today we're covering customary measures and making conversions, and then also solving problems that involve doing some customary measure conversions. The first thing, all the students in class got a handout that has converting customary measures written at the top. It's a chart. It looks like this piece of paper on here. It gives them the numbers that they need for doing their conversions. Okay, in class we went over using that handout, and we went over making those conversions. And it even says at the bottom of the handout, if you move right on the chart, then you need to divide the numbers that are inside the arrows. So say you're switching from hours to days. Here's hours and here's days. Since you'd be moving to the right, you would divide by the number down here in this arrow, which is a 60. Secondly, if you need to move to the left on the chart, then you'd multiply the numbers that are in the arrows. So again, you'd find the two things that you need, you'd look at the arrow in between, and you would multiply by that number. Okay, here are a couple of examples of what we did in class, just with simply conversion. If we have 3/4 feet and we're moving it to inches, first thing we would do is look on our chart for inches and feet. So we look on our chart, we find those, and we decide which direction we're moving. So we're moving from feet to inches. That is a move left. So we look at the number in the arrow, it's a 12, and we're moving left, so that means we're going to multiply. So we're going to use the number they give us, 3/4, and we're going to multiply times 12, and that'll give us our answer. Our answer is 9. Now, if you put 9 down as your answer, the number is correct, but you must have a label with your answer in order to have your answer correct. Okay. Another problem is moving from quarts to gallons. So if we change 29 quarts into gallons, the first thing we need to do is look on our chart for quarts and gallons. We'll find those in the liquid measures at the top. Moving from quarts to gallons is moving to the right. If we move right, that tells us to divide. And the number in the arrow is a 4. So we're going to take the number they give us, 29, and we're going to divide by 4. Okay, that'll fit 7 times with 1 left over. So that'll give us 7 gallons, and that one that we have as a leftover is still a quart. Again, make sure your answer has its correct labels on it. Okay, the last thing we looked at in class was how to solve problems that involve the conversions. So the first thing you need to do is you need to convert so that everything's in the same unit of measure. Is there another way to do these problems where you don't have to do that? Yes, but that can get confusing. So for our purposes in class, we're going to convert everything to the same unit of measure to start with. After that, you'll do what the problem tells you, your add, subtract, multiply, or divide, and then finally you need to put your answer into simplest form. So here's an example that we did in class of how to do that. We have 3 pounds 9 ounces plus 1 pound 9 ounces. The first thing we need to do is switch everything into the smaller unit of measure. The smaller unit is ounces. So we're going to look on our chart at weight measurement, and we're going to find pounds and ounces. Moving from pounds to ounces is to the left, so we need to multiply. And the number in the box is 16. So we're going to multiply 3 times 16, which gives us 48. Oops. Let me erase that. We'll try that again. It gives us 48. So we now have 48 ounces, and we had 9 ounces to start with. So we're going to add that 48 and 9 together, and that gives us 57 ounces. So this top line here equals 57 ounces. Now we need to take the bottom line and convert it also. 1 pound is 16 ounces because we multiply times 16, plus they give us 9 ounces to start with, so that gives us 25 ounces. We just did our conversion step. Step number 2, add, subtract, multiply, or divide as is specified in the problem. So we look back at the problem. The problem is an addition problem. So we need to add these numbers over here. 57 plus 25 equals 82. So we now have 82 ounces. And then we go on to step 3. Put your answer in simplest form. Your answer in simplest form means that we need to switch it back into pounds and ounces. So we're going to take 82 and we're going to divide it by how many pounds are in ounces. Actually, we're switching from ounces back into pounds. So you could look at your chart, find the pounds and ounces, We're switching from ounces to pounds. We're moving right, so that tells us to divide by the number in the block. The number in the arrow is 16, so we're going to divide by 16. 16 will go into 82 5 times. 5 times 16 is 80. And when we subtract off, we get 2 leftovers. So we end up with 5 pounds and 2 ounces. And that's our final answer. Okay, here's another example. 8 gallons in 1 quart minus 6 gallons in 2 quarts. We have to decide which one's the smaller unit of measure, gallons or quarts. Quarts is a smaller unit of measure. So now we go to our chart because we know we need to convert those gallons into quarts. Look on the liquid measure and find quarts and gallons. Moving from gallons to quarts, we're moving left. Moving left tells us that we need to multiply by the number in the arrow. So we're going to multiply times 4. 8 times 4 is 32. Plus we have 1 quart that they had already given us. So we're going to add those together. 32 plus 1 is 33 quarts. Okay, so we have that top line converted. Now we need to convert the bottom line. 6 times 4 is 24, so we now have 24 quarts, plus the 2 quarts they gave us to start with. 24 plus 2 is 26. Step 2 tells us we need to go ahead and look at the problem and see what function we're using. We're using subtraction. So we need to subtract 33 minus 26. When we do that, we get 7 quarts. And then the last step to completing this problem is to put it back into simplest form, which means if there's any gallons there, we need to switch those back into gallons. So if we look on our chart, switching from quarts to gallons is moving to the right. If we move to the right, we need to divide. So we're going to divide by 4. That's the number that's in the arrow. 7 divided by 4. 4 will go in there 1 time. We subtract off and get 3 left over. So we have 1 gallon and 3 quarts. And that's our final answer for that question. Okay, our last example that we're going to do is a linear measure question with feet and inches. This is a multiplication problem, so it's set up a little different. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to convert our 4 feet 9 inches into the smaller unit of measure, which if we look at our chart, we can see that inches is a smaller unit of measure. We look at our chart, moving from feet to inches is moving to the left. So that tells us that we need to multiply times 12, because 12 is the number inside the arrow. So 4 times 12 is 48. And we need to add on those 9 inches that they already gave us. So when we add those on, that gives us 57 inches. Now we can multiply those times the 3 that we started with, and that gives us 171 inches. Okay, that was step 1 and step 2. On to the third step, we need to simplify and put in simplest form. We're moving from inches back into feet. Inches to feet is to the right on our chart, and to the right we're going to divide. We're going to divide by 12. So 171 divided by 12. 12 will go into 171 14 times. 14 times 12 is 168. When we subtract off, we get 3 leftovers. So that gives us 14 feet and 3 inches as our final answer. Now, one of the things we did talk about in class was how this related to the work that we did with fractions, how we divided when we wanted to switch an improper fraction back into a mixed number. And we talked about how this converting is kind of like switching from the mixed number into an improper fraction and from an improper fraction back into a mixed number. It's all what we need to do to make sure everything's in simplest form.